I got to interview editors on what it's like to be one, so I can help clear the air on one of the more concealed occupations in the entertainment industry. Whilst these editors mostly work in the VTuber scene, a lot of what they know can be applied to other areas of content creation. Whether you yourself are interested in editing, want to work with editors, or are just curious about the process, I'm sure this video will be eye-opening in one way or another. Feel free to take notes or put this one on in the background, for this is my longest and most informative video yet. Now on to the interviews. What programs do you use for editing, and if you had to switch, which ones would you move to?
I use Premiere Pro and then sometimes After Effects. And I guess if I would have to switch, I would do DaVinci Resolve, really.
Yeah, using DaVinci myself.
Yeah, the reason why I would use it is specifically because it's free.
All right, what type of content do you edit, and what's your favorite to work on?
Right now, I mainly just work on Let's Plays. There's one person I do like video essays for, and that takes, if I'm being quite honest, a little bit too much work. I'm honestly just fine doing Let's Plays, because I get to just essentially watch the video as I do it, you know?
How long have you been editing? Who have you worked with so far?
I've been editing, probably since about 2019 when I first started my YouTube channel. So right now my biggest client is Sino. He's mainly a horror streamer, and I just cut down his VODs into some videos. And then I also do, his name is Moriarty, but he just does like mainly video game essays, kind of.
I think you've been working for them for quite a while now, haven't you?
For Sino anyway, it's been about 2 years now, and then I've just been off and on a couple people for probably about 4 years now.
Have you ever like wanted to like expand that roster, or do you like the comfort and consistency of having like the select people you typically go to?
Yes and no. Like, I really love the people I'm working for right now, but I've been trying so hard to work with other VTubers, and it just hasn't been working out at all.
Yeah, I found that to be hard. You have to do like a lot of networking, or you just have to get really lucky.
Like, if you don't have a friend of like a popular VTuber, you're just kind of SOL.
I think it kind of snowballs though. I do find people who like, oh, they've edited for like once you work for like 2 or 3 VTubers, they see a couple names they recognize, they're a lot more keen to work with you. I feel like that's very like an American job thing, because networking is like the #1 thing in America to get jobs. So they'll hire somebody just because when their employees knows them over someone who has more experience. Sometimes that sort of thing happens.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I follow a couple VTuber editors on Twitter, and I'll see they started with one popular VTuber, then bam, all of a sudden they've got like 3 more coming at them, and all it takes is that one.
If you can make sure you have yourself credited in the description, or make sure it's like portfolio of sorts, or at least like out in the open, like in your Twitter bio or in like a pinned tweet or something. How much time does it usually take for you to finish a video?
On the usual, it takes me about anywhere between 2 to 4 hours to finish a video. It takes me like mostly double the length of like the raw I'm sent. So if you send me 2 hours of like a stream, it's going to take me about 4 hours to finish the video. I mean, it depends on the style of content too. Like, if I'm just doing a plain Let's Play, it's a little bit faster than, say, for example, I do editing for the video essay, and that one takes me a long time. It takes me probably about 4 hours per hour of footage.
What do you do for like storing footage, video assets, like transferring stuff? Like, how do you like to use like Google Drive or whatever?
And they have like OneDrive also, or however that works. But I just store everything on hard drives on my computer. I have my video editing drive, and then like just a general drive where I download a bunch of bullcrap. So I think it's about 1.5 terabytes total between the both of them.
How do they like send it to you?
So for that, I use Google Drive. They'll upload their footage and audio to the Google Drive, and I'll just download it.
Do you like pay for Google Drive, or are you just, you know, running it free?
I tried running it free for a little while, but I ran out of storage like immediately.
What's it like working for VTubers as opposed to other kinds of creators?
Well, for me personally, I noticed the VTubers that have hired me were like more or less one-off videos. Like, they'll send me a couple things and then I'll do it and then never hear from them again. I mean, of course, it really depends on the person. Like, if you can find somebody who's relatively established, you know what I mean? Like maybe they just got partner and now they're looking for an editor, chances are that's going to be a long-term kind of deal. And if you're just getting the people who only have like a couple hundred followers on Twitch, then more than likely they're going to fall off, or at the very least, you know, not want to keep paying for an editor.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of get a little overzealous and then get a little carried away, and that's understandable. You only have so much budget to work with, so you're just like trying to figure things out. Any advice for editors looking for work or creators looking for editors?
Constantly be on the lookout. Like I've responded and reached out to so many people between like posts on Twitter, posts on Discord. If somebody's like, hey, I'm looking for an editor, you know, I always shoot my shot.
Yeah, I think shooting your shot is like, it's definitely something I'm learning now as someone who does like these interview videos. Like I shot my shot with my model maker, the person who rigged my art. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna ask if they'd be down, and they said, yeah, sure. I would have never gotten the opportunity if I just didn't ask.
And then this is me personally, but if I'm doing like shorts or something, I don't mind tossing out one free short just to make sure they like my style, or you know, if it's okay or whatever, like just to also make sure I'm not scamming them, like, you know, from their perspective.
Yeah,
because there are a lot of people out there who really try to screw other people over. It's also where most of the views come from, like the vast majority of views come from. People are really into short form content.
Do you use like a VGen or Fiverr or any of those sites for commissioning, or you just go through Twitter DMs or Discord DMs and all that stuff?
I actually just try to slide into people's DMs. I don't use any third party like sites or anything. Like I get why people use it, but I haven't had much success with it, weirdly enough. Like years ago when I decided to try to make a living off of editing, I made a Fiverr, and I was like, okay, yeah, if I make a Fiverr, people will come to me and then I can, you know, talk about my Fiverr every now and then. And after I made the account, it was like, nope, actually they were like, hey, you made your account and good job. Now start telling everybody about your account. And I'm like, I thought that was your job. I thought you were going to put me in front of people.
Yeah, so I feel like Fiverr's kind of has that YouTube, especially that Twitch sort of thing, where it's like there's not really much of an algorithm for it, and there's not really any way to get found because it's now so popular. It's impossible to be found, and it's not, and it's so full of like scams. It's so much more scam riddled than like VGen. VGen has scams, of course. VGen themselves have, first of all, way less people to sift through, so they can have a higher ban output. Even though they're a smaller studio, smaller company, they have like what, a tenth as many users as Fiverr. Fiverr's gone down, like they're just like the popular one, so they ended up getting all of the scummy activities and stuff. And the people who really ride or die for that are either already successful or they're just too lazy to move to VGen or whatever, and they're just, it's good enough for them. I've seen VGen work pretty well. I've seen that on a lot of people.
Yeah, I've thought about trying to make a VGen, but by, like, I'm not even exaggerating, sheer luck, I have not needed to make an account for them or try to push myself like that. I've just really luckily have had success reaching out to people, and then people coming to me like through word of mouth alone. What I really like to do when I'm first talking to somebody is just try to have a little conversation and, you know, really gauge what kind of person they are, you know, how they respond and all of that, and go from there before I decide to work on a commission for them. Because no matter what you do, there's a certain amount of risk that you're going to have to take when you're working for somebody. Like, are you going to waste your time? Are they going to pay me? You know, any of that. And you just kind of have to gauge it really off your first interactions.
Yeah, you definitely want to balance, like have like a balance between professionalism and being like friendly. Like you don't want to exactly be friends with who you're working with, but you want to be friendly with them for sure.
Yeah,
because if you are friends with them, there can be some like complications, like they're expecting discounts from you, or maybe they might expect you to work for free or some stuff later down the line. You know, you also have to be able to separate that yourself and be like, okay, I really like this person, I like working with them, but I also have boundaries to what I want to edit. Like if they want me to edit this video and I'm not comfortable with it, I need to be able to say no, like, hey, you're my friend, but this is maybe like outside of my league right now, or which is, you know, one of the questions I had up here is like, how do you balance your balance and manage your relationships with who you work for?
Honestly, I'm a pretty easygoing and laid back guy. Like, I always, to be quite honest, try to make friends out of the people I'm working for. Like, I mean, like you said, it can be a little dangerous, but I like talking to people. I like having friends.
Yeah. How involved are you with the communities of those you work for?
For my main client, pretty involved. I don't mean to boast or anything, but they love me there.
That's awesome.
He's constantly mentioning me and talking about me, and they'll just laugh and all that. They'll be like, there's an inside joke while he's streaming. He'll be like, Hop, cut that out. And then the chat will just flood. They'll be like, Hop, leave that in.
Yeah, I love that.
And yeah, it's great.
Personally, as like a viewer, I love it when like behind the scenes people are brought into the forefront. I know there are some, creators who like want to be super professional and all this stuff, and they're like, the cameraman doesn't exist, don't address them. But I love it when like cameraman, the editors, the graphic designers, I love artists, thumbnail designers, all that. I really love it when they get like involved and they get to be kind of a part of the cast. Maybe not on video with them, but like at least able to be like referenced, like they exist.
Like, it's really fun.
Most of these YouTubers nowadays are not a one-man show, and I think I think they underestimate how like entertaining it is to just have like a charismatic banter with your editor. Like Markiplier and his editor Lixian, they have amazing banter. There's insane editing regarding both of them. Lixian blowing up Markiplier every time, that kind of stuff. It's so much more entertainment value that people might not be thinking of. Some people don't want to get too attached, especially people who work with several different editors. They don't want to get too attached to one editor. Yeah. Okay. So how do you manage your time for a healthy work-life balance? I know it's hard for most people.
I don't, but at the same time, I pretty much just edit whenever I feel like, which is most of the time, conveniently. Like, I don't really have much advice on that other than in my spare time, I'm just like, I guess I'll edit.
Recently this month, the reason why I was able to put out my video in 2 editing sessions, I was able to finish it, is because like, instead, like I was procrastinating a bunch, and then I left this Discord server that I was like really active in temporarily because I'm like, I just need a break from it. Doing that gave me so much free time because they always wanted me to join and play games like Civ, K.
Yeah, it's
Civ
hard not to have any distractions. It's like when the internet is just right there.
I left the group I was most active in for the time being, and I'm like, okay, now I suddenly have like a lot of free time because I'm not playing 6 hours of Civ 6.
Exactly.
And I'm like, okay, I'm bored as hell. What do I do? And I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna work on the video. If you got time, force yourself to do it, and after like 20 minutes of editing, you're locked in. How does it feel to edit for your own channel as opposed to other channels? Do you have a preference?
I would love to solely edit for my own channel, but I value having money more than that. So that's where I'm at. I focus on everybody else, and then if I sometimes have free time, I'll edit for myself.
Yeah, because for me it's the other way around. Not exactly, but it is. I do prefer working for others because I don't have to hear myself yap. Like, I don't have to give myself notes during streaming and be like, hey, be a little bit quicker. I'm like editing here and I'm like, oh my god, will this guy shut up and move on to the next thing?
Oh, that's fair.
Why is he looking off to there? I'm like a lot more judgmental of myself.
Since I've had quite a few years like already getting over that hurdle, my voice doesn't bother me at all, and I feel like my pacing is usually okay. And if it's not, I know exactly where I'm gonna skip to the next segment, like in post. I usually remember pretty well in the middle of like my recording or my stream where I need to go.
If your own channel took off, would you peel back to work on it, or would you still prioritize freelancing?
I would probably peel back and focus on my own channel if I got that chance. But I also wouldn't really want to stop working for other people too, because I do enjoy it. I would just probably slow it down a little bit. Or if anything, I would focus on like just one specific client. You know what I mean? I would just have one person that I'm working for.
Because if you're only working for yourself, or you're only working for this specific person, it can get a little like, okay, I need a breather. It's like it's a creative medium. It's like having an artist only ever do this very specific type of portrait, like my dumbass who pretty much almost always works with 100 by 100 pixel portrait.
Exactly.
art. And sometimes I'm like, well, I kind of want to draw a tank or I draw a fish or something like that.
Right.
You know, every now and then in the creative industry, as a creative person, you only do so much with a specific style or a specific person you're working with. That tends to give you the quote unquote like writer's block, artist block, editor's block. What programs do you use? And if you had to switch, which ones would you move to?
I use Adobe Premiere Pro, which I really do like. It does suck that you can't just buy like a one-time license like you used to be able to, and that you can on a few other editing softwares. But I like that one with its UI and all the other stuff it has. But if I would switch, I would probably switch to Vegas, because I have a ton of friends who use it, so it would be pretty easy to just relearn it and have all my stuff there with the help of a bunch of my friends. I've heard a lot of good things with DaVinci, but it's just the whole thing of relearning another program, because since I've been using Premiere for like years.
I would say if you went to Vegas to DaVinci, it's not that. It took me one video to get into the groove of it, but if you're moving to Adobe to DaVinci, it might be a little bit more complex. But I don't think it would be too hard. It has a similar layout in some regards. I guess it would be a lot of the hotkeys and like shortcuts that might take the longest. Rework that muscle memory. Yeah. What type of content do you edit, and what's your favorite type to work on?
Well, I edit mainly like VODs and channel trailers, and also clip compilations. So I would definitely say the clip compilations are my favorite to work with, just because I don't have to worry about having the whole complete VOD there, making sure all like elements of like, I guess, the story of the game are there. With clip compilations, I can just kind of it's just easier to work with for edits, and I can have a lot more creativity in those.
Yeah, I feel like you don't really have to worry about the pacing as much, because the pacing kind of, figures itself out. You just go hop to hop to hop. I thought you would have said like trailers though.
Channel trailers are also really easy because I can get those done real fast, but it's also the sense of just kind of doing the same thing over and over again, but for each person, because it's just all right, let me find these clips that are good, shorten it down to 1 minute, fine-fitting music.
But what do you think makes a good channel trailer?
You just want to have the person's attention there for the whole thing. You really don't want people to check out early. Unless it's immediately to go to your thing. You want to start off strong, but also be strong in the middle, because people always like to end off strong too. But if you have it kind of in the middle, it gets a little, just people want to click off at that point.
Yeah, I mean, like a trailer is kind of like a hook. Like if you're a writer, it's kind of like a hook, but it's the whole thing is the hook. You're trying to get someone like interested in the channel. Obviously, if there's you just want the most quality you have there, because if there's something that's like not as like exciting, like 1 minute to convince someone that, hey, you should check me out or you should check out my announcement or what I'm up to. How long have you been editing, and who are some of the people you've worked with so far?
I've been going for like 4-ish years. I think I started doing VTuber stuff for 3 now. I started doing just random shit posts with my friend. With the VTuber stuff, I started doing clip compilations for VTubers I really liked. The first one that I made pretty much took off pretty well, which was great, I guess, inspiration to keep on going. With people who I've worked with, it's a lot of one-time clients. I have a few repeating ones. One of the super stand out ones would be a VTuber named Noctopus. I did only 2 videos for him, but those were some of the most fun videos I've ever edited. I really had a great time with those.
How long does it take for you to usually finish a video?
It really depends. Channel trailers are always just one sitting. I usually just one-shot those. I really should start calculating how long it takes me to do stuff. Like, I'm not really trying to do hourly rates, especially on commissions, because it's so much easier to just like, all right, flat fee, you pay this, we're done. I don't want to... It's harder to gauge stuff because it's like, oh, I've worked super hard on this one, but got it done really fast. I don't want to be paid less for something that's going to take me a lot longer.
Yeah. Hourly is stressful, or I don't want to feel guilty for being slow or whatever.
Clip comps also can be one sitting, but sometimes more than one. But VODs can take like 1 to 2 to 3 days.
Yeah.
Because it's also sitting through the entire stream.
Yeah, it takes a long time to sift through alone. I think there's some editors out there who just offer like strictly like, hey, I'll just sift through your VOD and give you a super cut, and then you can edit it yourself, or you can get someone to edit like the meat and the bones, like the actual assets and all this stuff. The person I saw charged by the hour of how long the stream was. So if you had like an 8-hour VOD that they're sifting through to cut it down to 10 minutes or 20 minutes or however long you requested. The end result doesn't matter. The 8 hours is specifically what they're charging you on. So they did like 10 an hour. That's $80 right there.
Yeah, I honestly, I want to start maybe doing my own, editing my own content, because I don't really do that myself. And I'm probably gonna ask people or like commission someone for doing that. I don't like hearing the sound of my own voice that much. Cutting and subs are usually like the most, it's the slowest part, and also the part that makes me like ugh.
I can tolerate my voice more now. It took a while to get there.
Intros and outros are very hard. There's like certain keywords that are good to start on, like okay, or
all right,
yeah, all right, stuff like that. Outros are also a little hard. You got to be a little bit more picky. If the person has like them wrapping up, it's good to use, but sometimes they're talking about what their next stream is going to be, and that kind of makes it like not viable to use.
Yeah,
sometimes
it's weird because they'll be like, my next stream, and like, this video is not going to be out by your next stream.
Sometimes I like doing perfectly cut screams as outros.
I love those,
which work very well. That's kind of my go-to.
There's perfectly cut screams, which are great, but then there's the really funny like abrupt ending where someone's like going on like a tangent or something. Yeah, that kind of thing. Those like out of context kind of endings I think are the most satisfying as a viewer anyways. It's kind of like the beginning where you're like, all right, but at the end of it you're like, goodbye. Like, you know, kind of that sort of loud noise kind of puts you in and then puts you out of that video. It's really satisfying. What do you do for storing, transferring, and whatnot of footage, video assets, that sort of thing?
For storing assets, I have a very nice SSD that has a lot of space.
Same.
I give every client their own folder, have that all nice, and then zip them up when I'm done with their projects. I usually like to save recurring clients folders so I can have consistency with fonts, colors, stuff like that. And then I have another folder that's just labeled stuff, and that has like BGMs, meme inserts, emojis, all kind of stuff like that I use. Transferring files, I just use the free version of Google Drive. Once a client, like either once I know they've already uploaded the video, or it's been at least a few months after I've given it, I'll usually delete it, but also have the actual video file anyways if they ever need it again. But yeah, I just use the regular free Google Drive. It's more than enough. There's one client that I have that's decently reoccurring who uses SoulSeek because she records her VODs, like records them in OBS as she's streaming. Yeah, so we use SoulSeek since that is a little bit easier for transfers.
What's it like for working for VTubers as opposed to other kinds of content creators?
VTubers, I've definitely had the most fun with editing for. I've edited for other types. I've edited podcasts. I've edited this and that. VTubers are the most fun. You can get, like, I guess the most creative with your edits for that. VTuber expressions can be really, really funny. Sometimes when they lose tracking and they make extremely funny faces, you can just do a lot more with VTubers. So it's just a lot easier and more enjoyable to edit with.
I was gonna say, is there like, since our VTubers are usually a lot more like private with how things are, do you ever have to like cut out like more private information, or do you have like an added like concern of, hey, I need to cut out like this? Maybe they accidentally say like, blur out like a name.
It happens. So I'm always up for just blurring or cutting out whatever they need me to. Sometimes they get a little bit too much. I had a client who wanted me to blur a username during an entire Fortnite match.
Oh,
I don't know about that.
sometimes there's like times where they don't like, it slips their mind. Do you have like times where you're like, you take it in your own hands, like you still have to keep the footage there because it's like relevant to the thing, but you still take it to your own hands, like, okay, I'll just blur this out? Or do you just like only do what the creator tells you to do?
I usually would DM them first and say, hey, did you mean to say this? Is this information that you're okay with being out there? Or
they know communication. That was the third option I never thought of. Holy crap. I don't know why that slipped my mind, but yeah, I guess so. Any advice for editors looking for work or creators looking for editors?
For editors looking for work, it kind of sucks to say. Maybe it doesn't, but you got to get something out there first. You got to do something, make a video. It doesn't have to be for someone, but it can be of someone. Like how I started with my clip compilations. It was like an easy thing to say, hey, this is what I can do. Look at this. And like easy thing to just have as portfolio and show off. You can't just go into it and hope people will pick you. Looking for editors, it's always good to just, well, VGen's obviously out there now, which is such a helpful tool.
Yeah.
You can easily scroll through it, find people, sort all that kind of stuff, or you can just, make your posts on your social media. And with the right hashtags, hopefully it'll get some traction and some people will be in your replies and DMs.
But yeah, I think being really active in communities as well is just like really good. If you're like really active in the streamers community and then you shoot them a DM, I'd like to edit for you, you'd be much more likely to be accepted than someone who just like showed up out of nowhere. How do you balance or manage your relations with who you work for?
A lot of the time, my clients are just one time, with the channel trailers being my most popular commission that I get. So a lot of the time, it's just kind of DM, here it is, that's that, we never see each other again. Sometimes I get rated by my clients, which is pretty cool.
That's
but
dope.
If it's a reoccurring client, I sometimes will join their Discord, see what it's about. I'm really bad at watching live streams myself, unless
Same.
it's like my actual friends. I try to lurk sometimes on clients' streams to kind of see what they're about sometimes, but that's kind of the best I can do.
I guess that kind of goes in the next question. Like, how involved are you with those communities that you work for? You said you like join Discord servers and sometimes you hang out and chat too.
A few people who are reoccurring. I'm in one of their Discords, and I don't chat too much, but I look at what's going on, what's up with the VTuber themselves, how they're doing, what they're going to be doing soon. It helps me, think, okay, they're going to be playing this game. I'm familiar with this game. That should have some good clips from it. If it's a clip compilation, I've even went into their stream if I knew what the game was and clipped stuff myself.
And I feel like it helps make editing for people a little easier if you're just like already familiar with their stuff, their line of work. How do you manage your time for a healthy work-life balance?
I do not. Something I need to get better at, definitely. My sleep schedule is such a wreck.
Something that helps me like get up and not go back to bed is I have an alarm, like an actual alarm clock. I have two alarms. I have one on my phone that's right next to me when I'm laying down on the nightstand. Then I have like an actual alarm clock that I have to physically walk up to turn off. But I usually sit there, I kind of let my alarms ring on for a bit and wake me up, and then I turn them off once I'm a little bit more awake. Like I try not to immediately turn it off and then bolt back to my bed.
I've been suggested that before. It's something I definitely might look into. I've also heard like a bunch of other editors also have similar problems with, sleep and other stuff like that.
Yeah, I think creative industries in general are super hard to do that with. There are some people who are like, they have a whole calendar and everything's planned out, and they're pretty good at sticking to a routine, and they're like freaking messiahs, and we'll never be like them. But creativity and motivation is like very shifty, very dodgy, and getting good sleep when you're working on a computer all day, it's a little harder. All right, so I guess we kind of touched on this a little bit before, but how does VGen differ from other sites like Fiverr and whatnot?
I feel like it's a lot easier to navigate. You can really get what you're looking for, especially with all the filters that they have, since you can search and then put on the filters. I guess it's a lot less wide, but in a good way, because they know who their clients are. You're working with VTubers here mostly, so you're getting stuff geared towards VTubers. I really appreciate some of the stuff that goes into making the services. That, with your like TOS, your workflow, your request forms, it's a lot of cool things you can add on to it with auto calculating prices and other kind of stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
but Fiverr also has that, which not to the same degree as VGen. There's a few things that are a little detrimental with VGen. My biggest thing is that they don't have notification sounds when you get DMs or anything like that. Yeah, they rely on your email, which can be a little bit of a problem. But also VGen is so much of a smaller team.
Yeah,
so you can't really blame them too much.
Fiverr has so much stuff like music and arts and crafts and all this other stuff that can get overwhelming, and I don't think their algorithm or their like way of like navigating is quite as refined as VGen's. Yeah. Have you had any weird or challenging commission requests, like something out of your comfort zone?
Not really. I've edited NSFW stuff before with like, comics and other kind of stuff. It's kind of hard to get out of my comfort zone. I think it was only one time where I rejected a video, which was them just playing a game I really, really didn't support because it had some AI art involvement and other stuff like that. VTubers can, VTubers are VTubers, so they're gonna get a bit spicy sometimes. I've had, certain VTubers with certain attributes to their models.
Personalities, yeah.
There is something else that I actually do not accept requests, and it's kick streamers. I just with that platform.
I mean, you kind of answered this a little bit, but how often do you get commissioned by repeat and new clients? Like, what's like the ratio of repeat to new or new to repeat or whatever?
It's like 80% new clients, 20 repeat, pretty much. It's a lot of the time people just really want those channel trailers. I've had my VODs closed for a bit just because this one does not give joy. I'm just trying to, kind of get the quick and easy ones done where I can just, all right, here's the money. Let me get this done real fast. Here you go. Channel trailers are a thing that a lot of people want. It's not hard for me to do on my end. So it's just a nice thing to do for new clients. And then with the, familiar clients, it's just, it's like, oh, hey, it's them again. Let me do this. I'll do this with a smile now.
Channels are something that's usually on the Twitch page when you go up to their stream and they're offline, or like someone's YouTube channel if they have it set up that way, or on like a pinned tweet on Twitter, that kind of stuff.
I think a channel trailer was my first ever commission, actually.
Do you prefer working with repeat clients for consistency or new clients to keep things fresh, or like how's that balance for you preferably?
I definitely prefer repeat clients. It's like easy to just gauge their vibe after I've commissioned that gotten commissioned by them several times. I can be like, okay, well, I know how this person's content usually goes. I know what kind of edits they like. Hey, this worked last time. This works this time again. Easier to experiment with them. With the one-time new clients, it's like, well, I want to make sure they actually appreciate what they get. Play it safe, yeah. And then with the repeat client, I can just be like, hey, I'm testing this out. Let me know what you think.
You can also like kind of
safer
build up that relationship even further. That definitely helps. There's something kind of rewarding of being like, hey, I get to look forward to working with this guy like even more. You'll have this VTuber that you've been working with for like a year. That's like something cool to look back on.
DaVinci is just so stable.
I love it.
It's so nice. I remember when I was getting into editing, I saw that my options were stuff like Sony Vegas or like Adobe products, all stuff that like you would have to like pay for, right? Not only that, but just hearing the horror stories of people using Premiere and just having it like crash on you over and over and over. I feel that if I started my editing journey with something that was as unstable as Premiere, I don't think I would have gotten very far. I am very sensitive to when technology fails me. That frustrates me to no end. That's like my biggest pet peeve. So DaVinci being as like just grounded and stable as it is, I can just trust that like whatever I do, not only will it not crash on me, but if it does crash, the autosave that it has makes sure that I lose next to nothing.
Yeah. Also, like how DaVinci has like it all kind of in-house. You don't have to go to After Effects or anything.
Yeah. Fusion is very, very scary at first. I didn't touch it for like a year, and I was still able to get like a bunch of like animated works out. So it's 100% like not necessary. At the same time, learning Fusion and learning when to implement it is very, very important, at least for me. And I think it's not as scary so long as you're able to go into it with the mindset of like, you don't have to learn everything right immediately, just enough to do whatever it is that you want to do in that moment, and then just have it be another tool under your belt.
But it does seem like a really great way to do complex edits without making the timeline itself complex, and kind of being able to keep track and build up in your mind how it's going to look like before you hit send.
It's like the Clip Studio Paint of editing softwares.
What type of content do you edit, and what's your favorite to edit on, work on?
My edits are primarily within the VTuber sphere. I edit anything ranging from 20-minute long highlight videos to shorts. I've dabbled in both just like gaming stuff and just chatting stuff. Just anything that I find like interesting or fun, I tend to just pick up. I've gotten pretty lucky with the opportunities that have been handed to me. So I've been able to have like a wide variety of content to work on and just get better at sort of making it enjoyable for a viewer to watch while amplifying like the streamer. I've been very lucky that the streamers that I have been working with are all super funny.
Yeah.
So it never really
Definitely.
feels like I'm like having to work overtime to be like, oh, I have to make you funny. I have to make you entertaining.
That's me with myself.
I guess the specific type of editor that I am is that I really like PNG animations.
Ooh.
And I really like working with content that allows me to sort of express an animator side to the content that I put out, which is why I really like just chatting, or when people like simply just tell a story. If you can visualize what they're saying on stream, I get to bring life to that with the type of work that I do.
Yeah, there's an editor that I really looked up to called Zaid. He's worked for the Amazing and but he has kind of like a similar approach where he does like some animations, or he'll do some like really complex effects and whatnot. And I think like having like a bit of an animation like side, it kind of adds to the story. I feel like you can enhance things a lot more. When I see like Martin Cedo Pants, he does, you know, he has this one asset of like his character in a suit. He uses stock images in very memey ways. It's a really good way to keep things moving without having to like have like a VTuber model or a full outright animation going on. How long have you been editing, and who are some of the people you've worked with so far?
I've been editing for like 2.5 years now. The first time I ever touched DaVinci was like June 2022.
Have you been consistently doing it since those 2 years ago, or has it been like something it has ramped up over time, gotten more consistent with?
I did aim to be as consistent as I possibly could when I started. When I started, it was just the 7th largest Chad YouTube channel. I was like clipping VTubers. I think my aim for myself was that I wanted to make a video every week, just like something that I thought was funny from like, you know, the VTubers that I was watching at the time.
How much time does it usually take for you to finish like certain videos?
That time fluctuates a lot depending on the complexity of the video. Let's say I'm told to put out all the stops, like, you know, put a bunch of PNG animation, subtitle it, go all out on this like 20-minute video. And that can take me anywhere between half a month to a month, depending on how invested I get. Sometimes like pacing becomes an issue too. I remember there was this one video I had to like completely redo because I was so unsatisfied with how the video was going, how it was turning out. It was just this like really, really long stream. It was like 2 very, very long streams put together. And my goal was to make it all like within half an hour. My initial approach was that I made it more of a compilation of things that happened.
Yeah.
I wanted to get every single moment in because it was like a big event. I wanted to make sure everyone involved got like a little bit of screen time because, you know, I wanted to make, you know, the viewers happy that like, oh, they're watching it because, you know, this person was in it. If they watch it and they don't see them, it's like, oh, well, that's a little sad. Like, I want to be able to get a little bit of everyone. But the problem is that the flow of the video was just awful because of it. Scrubbing through and going back, I started dreading the video. It was the first time I had ever fully like scrapped a video and just redid like the foundation. And I made it more of a highlight than a complication.
It feels kind of like you have this 4-panel manga, but all 4 panels are a punchline instead of, you know, leading up to a punchline.
I talked with a bunch of people in like editing servers that I was in, just kind of like asking how they go about making these longer types of videos. And a lot of people were saying like having like an overarching story beat
exactly.
helps a lot. Sort of like tie everything together, make everything like, you know, lead into one another rather than it just kind of like hopping from stone to stone to stone.
Yeah, that kind kind of gives you like a bit of a railway to be on. That lets you be on like a bit of a train when you have like an overarching story instead of just driving freestyle. What do you do for like transferring footage, storing assets, and all that stuff? How do you like organize that?
I do prefer having all my stuff kind of on hand. So all my footage, all my assets, everything that I would need to edit. For a while, it just went in my like standard drive. I had like a not quite a terabyte storage, but it was still pretty big. It was big enough. Eventually, I did so much of this that wasn't going to cut it anymore. On top of like, you know, I like to play games and stuff. So that's also going to take up a lot of space. So I bought an external hard drive that's like about 2 terabytes. I personally don't really vibe with cloud storage because it's kind of like, you know, subscription based. It's all just like money that is going to be put down Google's pocket or whatever. I don't want to ever get locked out of like my stuff or like, oh, my internet's down and now I can't edit.
Do you like usually like rip the VOD directly, or do they like send it to you over some sort of software or something? How do you like get that into your storage?
I don't like downloading whole VODs. I think to me it's a waste of you know, storage, like especially if you're only going to be using like a small chunk of the video, and especially to me like starting out, it didn't make sense to download a whole VOD for like 5 minutes of footage and then never use the rest of the VOD ever. Also throwing like, you know, 8 hours into DaVinci will make DaVinci cry. So if you can learn how to use like some downloaders to just like trim sections of a video to then use that, bring it into your editor, I think that's more optimal.
What's it like working for VTubers as opposed to other kinds of creators?
There are things that I can assume. It's a bit hard to say because I haven't really had a lot of experience of working with IRL streams or people that don't stream but just make content. I don't have a ton of experience with that. To me, at the very least, I don't think I would have a trouble being able to do the same types of edits that I do with IRL people. There's not that much of a difference at all.
Any advice for editors looking for work and for creators looking for editors?
Editors looking for work, make your own personal channel and showcase your edits there. It's cool to have like a portfolio, but I think the way that like, let's say VTuber editors get seen is like having a clipping channel, because that's just where people are going to watch the clips anyway. So even if it's not going to make you money right now, also like if you're going into this for the money, like reconsider,
not ideal. No,
you're not going to be making some buco bucks here. I'll just tell you that right now. But like if your goal is to be seen, make a clips channel.
It passes on pretty quick, because sometimes they'll be brought up in the streams for people to react to, especially if there's if it's like a collab, like he said this about this person, and then that gets sent, the community sends or whatever.
Aside from that, I've heard a lot of people have had success with, what's the word, cold DMing, like saying, hey, you know, I have this service, just being respectful and like saying like, I'm an editor, if you would like an editor, please let me know. There are Discord servers that specialize in like, oh yeah, here's just a bunch of editors, and they have like a designated channel. Go in and say, hey, I'm looking for a highlights editor, going to be ranging from, you know, 2 videos a month, or like, oh, I'm looking for a shorts editor, I'm going to be making 1 every day. And they sort of like list out like what they're looking for, what they are kind of expecting, maybe their budget, and then from there, everyone that has like a role of like, if they're able to do commissions, they'll be notified that the job listing has gone up, and they'll throw in their portfolio, and they'll just kind of like say like, hey, you know, I'm willing to work, I am able to do this, feel free to let me know. And then from there it can go into discussions of like, okay, now I've seen everything that has been like given to me, so let me just hit them up.
How do you balance and manage your relationships with who you work for? How do you like keep intact with them and that sort of thing?
The best foot forward is a professional one. I start out every interaction I have with just being like professional and just trying to like understand that this is like a job. It can be very easy for people to get starstruck, like, oh my god, I get to edit for blah blah blah, you know. At that point, the power dynamic shifts so hard.
Exactly.
And that's scary. That's super scary because then a bunch of things can happen. You can there can be like toxicity in the, you know, the back and forth. There can be the editor can like be doormatted and they undersell themselves super hard just because they want to work with them. There's a lot that can go wrong when you are in a commission setting. Understanding that this is a job first and foremost, I think that helps a lot. At the very least, get the groundwork. I am not a fan first. I am someone that can make videos for you, and I want to be treated as such. From there, that you can, like, you know, continue talking with them. Maybe it becomes a lot easier and less stiff. You know, you might be starting to like talk like all casual and whatnot. It's like, if, like, maybe in the beginning it's all like, it's like, yes, I would like to, you know, commission a video for me. It's like, oh, okay, yes, yeah, I would be able to do this. And then eventually later on down the road, it's like, hey, yo, I got this video. You good for it? It's like, yeah, boss. I think that just comes naturally with relationship. It's not anything that should be forced. Like, if you're going into this with the expectation that you like, oh my God, if I'm an editor, that means I get to connect with like this streamer and that streamer.
Parasocial.
I think you should stop. I think you should stop doing what you're doing and just do something else. If you're going to into editing with that mindset, I think you're going into this for all the wrong reasons. And you're going to end up burned. You're going to end up unhappy with how things are turning out because either you get it and bridges burn afterwards, or you don't get it and you feel unsatisfied with where you are because you're not like, oh, I'm the editor, I should be getting like direct attention from the streamer. Like, oh God, no, please no.
Yeah, you're not always obligated to be like, you know, part of like a community or a running gag. Like for most people, it just slips into place to be that way. How involved are you with the communities of those you work for?
I can admit that I'm not super involved. My Twitter's like dead. I find it very difficult to interact in like a streaming environment, not because it's like, oh, it's toxic or oh, it's scary or whatever. It's just, to me, I just find it difficult. Just in a streamer's chat, I kind of feel apprehensive to talk because the stuff I want to say, I feel should be like important or should be something that can push the streamer ahead.
Yeah, I feel that sometimes too.
I want to be a productive chat member.
How do you manage your time for a healthy work-life balance? Something we're all pretty bad at, I've noticed.
Oh, I was bad at that for a very, very long time. I always have that nagging feeling where I'm like, oh, I'm not doing enough. Oh, I should probably work on this more. You know, I need to stop playing games. I need to do this. I like look back as like, I've worked on this for like 5 hours now. It can be hard, especially starting out when you want to like make a name for yourself. It can be really hard to just stop. There's a certain point where you hit where it's like, it's less of like, oh, I need to do this and more of like, oh, I want to do this. And if it hits that point, then like, you know, go ahead. Like, you know, who am I to say like, oh, you should stop doing that and do other shit. Like if it's genuinely your passion to do video editing, you know, spend your free time doing this. I think what it comes down to is understanding where you are with all of it, being aware of like your needs, like, oh, like I'm starting to feel myself burn out, or like, oh, I've been working on this one video for like a week now. Knowing where your limits are and being able to be proactive on taking care of yourself matters a lot more in the long run than like any structure that I have given to myself.
You can't edit if you're not in the right headspace for it. It's a creative industry. I'm sure you can put out stuff, but you might not be exactly happy with it. That's going to perpetuate the cycle and make it even worse because you're like, oh, I don't like how I did here. And then you can go down in a spiral. You're more prone to lashing out and whatnot. What do you think makes a good channel trailer?
Put what you can do first and foremost into the video. So for me, I really like PNG animation. So my reel is me dancing around, moving around. I'm swapping between environments. The things that I'm showing off are part of the environment, and the camera is like panning over. There's a lot of motion going on. That to me is what I like to do a lot. Being able to put my best foot forward while also showcasing like, hey, this is what I can do. This is some of the stuff I can do while showing it off in a fun way. To me, I think that is very important. And I think, what's it called, it comes across very well with the people that watch it. They see like, oh my gosh, this is the type of like editing that I can expect. It's one thing to showcase like, hey, here's like a 4-panel screen of like all the videos I've done, compared to, hey, here's this environment that I've created to show my editing style, while also showing off, hey, this is some of the stuff I've done, making it like interesting to see and look at, while also getting a good idea of who you are as an editor, can do wonders for you.
Do you find it difficult to min-max the content within the short time spans you're given?
Yeah, I definitely think there was a learning curve. When got into shorts, all I was doing at that time was doing like bigger highlight videos. It like started off with like 5-ish minute videos, and then eventually I got really good at trying to get my editing style down.
Mm-hmm.
So I started making a bunch of highlight videos, stuff that like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, around that area. And then going into shorts, I still have that brain of like, oh, I want to get like this big overarching story into this video. But it's very hard to do in a minute. Like obviously now you have 3 minutes to play with on YouTube, but like even still, it's a bit difficult for me. There was a time where it was like I had to cut out like super big parts that I wanted to be in the short, and it just feels awful because it's just like, oh man, I really wanted this to be here. I thought this section was pretty funny, but like for the sake of flow, I have to remove this. At a certain point, there was like a time where I was just like, I remember having to jump in calls with people and be like, hey, I have this short that is like 1 minute and 3 seconds long. I need help cutting out 3 seconds.
Yeah, that's so hard.
It's tough, especially like the style that where I want the short to have as much content as possible. Obviously there are other angles. There's like people that make shorts that are like 20 seconds long, 40 seconds long, and they're just as good. They have like different goals in mind when it comes to what they want to showcase. It's just that for me, especially where I was coming from, I wanted to get as much in as possible, which makes it very, very difficult. You do have to have a completely different, like, I guess, lens for understanding what makes a good short, understanding how you can trim a short, and
Sounds
not
like
feel
a
like you
lot
have to
be able to shift through those mindsets, especially if you're working back to back with different mediums.
Yeah, for sure. And like the fact that it's vertical too, you kind of have to shift your mindset with that. For me, I find it easier to view it not as like, oh, I'm going from horizontal to vertical. It should be thought more of, oh, I'm going from 16:9 to a square. When you're watching shorts, you're never looking at the very bottom of the screen and the very top of the screen. You kind of have like a focal point of where your eye will like want to go, and it's generally like the box in the middle of the screen. So I think if you're able to shift that perspective to like have all the important stuff in that box, or if it does shift up and down, it all shifts up and down together so that the eye doesn't have to like jump up and down for it. It can just follow the flow of the motion. A lot of the edits that I do, if it does move up and down, I like to have it start at a certain point and then have like, let's say the subtitles, they shift up and like have everything else also push up to help guide the viewer's eye that like, hey, up here's where I want you to look now. Okay, now that you're done looking at that, look back down here.
I would say it's kind of akin to doing photography or filming with like a really long lens. Like you're trying to get like a long shot to a building or something. And I want it to where things are in the right framing and things are easy to follow, and not just like fully panned out and things are small and hard to see, or like you kind of want to keep things in frame the right way, and framing is a lot more relevant than it is in normal horizontal video of like gameplay or whatever. There's only so much real estate you're given. Do you feel like you work better under pressure or without too much pressure? Like how's that work?
My brain thinks I work better under pressure because I have that set goal in mind. I have like a week to do this big video. I am like forced to map it out in my head. I'm forced to like say, okay, by this day I should have this done. And then like when the day approaches, I'm like, okay, it's all tying together, and boom, it's all done. And there it is. To me, it feels more fulfilling because I'm kind of forced to structure it in my mind. When let's say I have like a lax schedule, like, oh, just get this done in like 2 months. Then I'm like, okay, well, I don't really need to make a structure for myself. I can just work on it until I'm satisfied. To me, because I sometimes have trouble like making structures for myself when it comes to making a video, it can feel sometimes either like, oh, you know, it's taking me a long time because I'm not putting in as much effort, or like, oh, I'm feeling kind of lazy working on this right now. But it's more just because like it's spaced out because I'm allowed to be spaced out. Like if I really, really wanted to, I could buckle down and do it all in a week. You know, I'm not gonna feel good about it after.
Do you feel like do you feel more pressure working for some of the bigger channels, or more like channels that are a little bit more like they have more of something particular in mind?
Obviously, like I want the videos to do well. I have faith in my ability that a video that I make can do well. Sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes it does. And that does kind of like eat at me a little bit. But I think the pressure just comes from time and deadlines. I'm never worried like super hard. Like if a video flops, I'm not going to beat myself up about it for a very long time. If a video does super well, I might be like, oh, that's surprising. But I don't relish in that super hard, because to me, I find the enjoyment comes from like the creation process, and the strenuous part in a creation process is deadlines for me. Yeah. So when there is a tight deadline, that's when I feel bad.
You're more like focused and invested on like the process of the overall art piece instead of how it's like received. That's mostly out of your control how it's received. Like even it is, of course, to some degree, because if it's a good video, it probably will do decent. If it's a bad video, it probably won't do great. But you see this time and time again throughout decades, not just on YouTube, not just in modern internet era, but in life in general. There's so many times where this person put out like an artwork and he put barely any effort and it got way more press than the artwork he spent quite a while in. So that kind of stuff is like completely unavoidable. That doesn't exactly correlate to how much effort you put in. So just like bunker down and like put in the same amount of effort regardless of how it's received, because it is what it is.
Yeah.
I've wanted to make this video for a while now. There's a lot of mystery behind the world of video editing, and I'm glad to be able to shine a light on one of the most important jobs in this industry. I had a lot of fun recording this, and surprisingly no difficulty organizing or recording this video, so thanks to these fellas for being easy to work with. There are links to all my guests' social medias in the description down below, in case you want to follow their journey or possibly even commission them for your own video projects. If you have any questions, I'll gladly answer them in the comment section down below. There will be more interviews like this one, so subscribe right here, right now for that and even more.